In this video, we'll continue on discussing the correlational research strategy. In particular, we'll discuss the direction of the relationship. So how does that correlation coefficient tell us the direction of the relationship? So as mentioned at the end of that last video, a correlation coefficient measures and describes the relationship between two variables. And there's two characteristics that correlation coefficient can tell us. One is the direction of the relationship, and the other is the consistency or strength. And in this video, we're going to discuss the direction of the relationship. So what about the correlation coefficient tells us the direction of that relationship? It's the sign, whether that correlation coefficient is a positive number or a negative number. That indicates the direction of the relationship. So a positive number is going to tell us that we have a positive correlation, that both variables are moving in the same direction. A negative number or a negative correlation is going to be telling us that those variables are moving in opposite directions. So a positive correlation, as shown here by this scatter plot, is when two variables change in the same direction. In other words, an association between an increase in one variable and an increase in another variable, or there's a decrease in one variable associated with a decrease in another variable. So here, as variable x increases, variable y increases. Another way of saying it, the higher x is, the higher y is. So both variables are going in the same direction. Here again, this is wife's age is correlated with husband's age in a positive manner. So as husband's age increases, the wife's age increases. And you have a positive correlation going up and to the right. So here's another example. Let's say you have a friend that plays a lot of video games. And you notice when you go out with that friend also gets in a lot of fights, so he has a lot of aggressive behavior. So what you're noticing is that there's a relationship between video game play, so as the amount of time playing video games, specifically violent video games, increases, aggressive behavior increases. So that's something that you've observed. This is also something that we see correlations like this in the literature. So now let's compare a positive correlation with a negative correlation. So for positive correlation, two variables change in the same direction. For a negative correlation, they're changing in opposite directions. In other words, an association between an increase in one variable is associated with a decrease in another variable. So as variable x increases, variable y decreases. Or the higher x is, the lower y is. So they're moving in opposite directions. So here's what a scatter plot would look like for a negative correlation. See, now we see it's going down and to the right. It's important to understand which way the slope goes for a negative correlation versus a positive correlation. And here we have maximum distance needed to read the sign, and we have the driver's age in years. So as the driver gets older, so as one variable increases, the distance needed to read the sign decreases. So as age increases, distance needed to read the sign decreases. Let's talk about another example. So let's say we notice that as somebody is missing a lot of class or absent from class, their grades suffer. So if we were to take a group of individuals, we might find that as absenteeism increases, so the more they're absent from class, the lower their grades are. So you see how these are moving in opposite directions. As one increases, the other decreases. This would be variable x, and this would be variable y, moving in opposite directions. So here's another, this is actually a graph showing you that. This is actually from a study that I had found. So as absenteeism increases, grades decrease. Again, showing how this is showing you probably a little bit too of a perfect relationship, but demonstrating again that the direction that that scatter plot would go, down and to the right. Here's just a diagram showing you the relationship comparing all three different scatter plots, one for a positive correlation, one for a negative correlation, and one for no correlation. Here for this one, it's as annual income in thousands of dollars increases, years of education increases. So again, as annual income increases, years of education increases. Here, as years of education, or as annual income increases, dental problems requiring care decreases. So again, as one variable increases, the other variable decreases. And here is just showing no correlation between aggressiveness scores and height in inches.